The time has come.
Yes, it has.
Yes, no more screwing around. It is
This
time
is serious
to,
stuff now.
ta-da, it's Eddie's
Yep.
Stanley Cup Pulse. Take it away, Eddie.
It is serious stuff now, Gary. And, we were 8, and then we were 4, and then there were 2. Last week, the Florida Panthers, they beat the Carolina Hurricanes in the division final, in the conference final, to advance to the Stanley Cup. And our very own Canadian, the last standing Canadian team in the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers beat the Dallas Stars 4-1 to advance to the Stanley Cup final. And yes, absolutely, these are the same two teams that fought it out to Game 7 last year, at which the Florida Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers last year in Game 7. So it's a series rematch, and it's one that a lot of hockey fans were hoping would happen and are looking forward to. And both teams absolutely well-deserved in getting into the Stanley Cup. Now the Stanley Cup, right? We are now in the final round of the NHL playoffs. And this is to win the most prestigious trophy in all of professional sports. And it's the most bruising, punishing, and toughest of championships to win in professional sports. And you know what? And when it's over, Gary, we're all going to hear of stories of players playing through the horrendous injuries that they've suffered, winner on the winning side or on the losing side. Just to give you an example, a key member of the Florida Panthers last year, Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, this guy's as tough as they come. He's a third-generation Tkachuk player that's playing in the NHL. His father was Walter Tkachuk. His grandfather was Walter Tkachuk. His father was Keith Tkachuk, menacing player for the St. Louis Blues. And, of course, he has a brother, Matt Tkachuk, playing in Ottawa. Just to give you an idea of how much it cost, Brady Tkachuk played in Ottawa, how much Matt Tkachuk sustained in terms of an injury last year. He actually played with a cracked sternum. This is the bone in front of your chest. He was playing with a cracked sternum, much so after winning the Stanley Cup in the dressing room. His brother had to get into the dressing room and help him undress and get his equipment off, just to give you an idea of how brutally tough this championship is to win. And you know what, Gary? Great time of the year for Canadians. I'm not saying Canadiens de Montréal. I'm saying Canadians from Canada, especially when one of our old teams are actually in the finals. And you know what? It seems like Canadians and all of Canada from coast to coast has jumped on the Oiler bandwagon. I mean, I read stories today from bars out in the East Coast that typically root for either the Canadians or the Maple Leafs. People are filling up the bars wearing Oilers jerseys. I'm seeing stuff from all over the world on social media. People in places where they don't even know hockey exists wearing Oiler jerseys and posting them. And this is coast to coast. And you know what? I think there's a greater sense of nationalism that's associated with this year's playoffs, considering the fact we have one Canadian team left. And I think a lot of this has to do, thanks to the person who shall go unnamed, Mr. down in the United States and his annexation rhetoric. Everybody is just gung-ho about Canada, regardless if it's politics or it's sports related. We're all on board with the Edmonton Oilers. And it's all about bringing the cup home back to Canada. As I mentioned last week, in Montreal, the Champlain Bridge, which is the most heavily traveled bridge in North America, home of the Montreal Canadiens, we don't want to hear about Western Canadian hockey teams, actually had a sign in beautiful color, the sign that basically tells the drivers what the status of the traffic is on the bridge, in beautiful Oiler colors, cheering the Edmonton Oilers on. Now, how often can you actually see this from the province of Quebec, which goes to say a lot of Quebecers are very much Canadian, are feeling Canadian these days for good reason or bad, which is fantastic to see. Prediction-wise, Gary, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think this one's going to go down to 7 games again.
I think so, too.
And at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to goaltending. You know what? We're always talking about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl leading the way for the Edmonton Oilers. And I mean, let's look at the Panthers. They are a solid two-way hockey team, very, very aggressive, and they're all over you in a matter of seconds. I think it's going to come down to a goaltender duel between Sergei Bobrovsky of the Panthers and Stuart Skinner, who's an Edmonton homeboy, and he's really playing solid hockey. And I think whoever wins that battle of the goaltenders is going to be hoisting the Stanley Cup with the rest of his teammates. Both teams right now, Gary, as far as I can tell, are extremely evenly matched when you're looking at goal-scoring prowess. If you're balancing offense and defense with goaltending, different styles of play, I think they're very, very evenly matched if you look at the statistics for the first three rounds. Now, for Edmonton, Draisaitl, McDavid have to continue at their present pace in terms of their contributions to the games, and also Stuart Skinner has to continue standing on his head because he's been absolutely outstanding. Now, if I go back to my initial formula when the playoffs started so many weeks ago, I always say the team with the most Canadians is going to hoist the Stanley Cup, regardless of what city they're coming from or what city they're playing for. So, just to recap, the Edmonton Oilers, 65% of their rosters are Canadian boys. The Florida Panthers, only 32% of their players are Canadian boys. So right now, I'm going to put my money down on the Edmonton Oilers just on that pure fact. And look, Edmonton played their first game last night. I don't know if you watched, Gary, but watching or listening to the national anthem being sung at the arena it gave me goosebumps and shivers up and down my spine. They sung the American anthem. Everyone was very polite. There was no booze, which is fantastic from a sports perspective. You heard the singer start off with the first verse of O Canada, put his microphone away. 18,000 people singing O Canada at the top of their lungs. I had goosebumps. And you know what? Hearing that national anthem, I would be very surprised if even the ardent Maple MAGA or any separatists in our country did not get goosebumps and feel a sense of Canadian pride listening to that. So, puck drop, right? The Edmonton Oilers, just a little bit after the first period, scored the first goal, and the place just went absolutely nuts. The game went back and forth. I thought the competition was pretty much even both ways. But unfortunately, going into the third period, Edmonton was down 3-2. So in the third period, at the 6-minute mark, the Edmonton Oilers tied the game. And guess what, Gary? It went into overtime. And Leon Draisaitl, who did not score in last year's championship run in the Stanley Cup final in the last round, he scored the opening goal. And guess what? With 30 seconds left to go in the overtime period, Draisaitl scores the overtime winner. And it was a real, real good game. If I was to tip my hat off to any players on the ice, it would have gone to the goaltenders, Gary. Bobrovsky and Skinner. They just played absolutely fantastic hockey. And I am looking forward to the next game, and I really hope this goes to Game 7 because A, it's good for our country, B, it's great for the sport, and C, we'd love to see the Stanley Cup here back in Canada. So it's been, the playoffs this year have not been disappointing at all. I know maybe to you because the Maple Leafs didn't make it any further than the second round. And to me, because Les Canadiens, Les Glorieux, did not make it out of the first round, so both you and I can look forward to next year. But you know what? Go Edmonton. What a fantastic tournament. What a fantastic tournament, Gary. And for any of our listeners, I would really encourage you to tune into the Stanley Cup playoffs because, like I said, it is the toughest trophy and championship to win in professional sports anywhere in the world.
And as you said, Eddie, it's one more slice of the national unity and pride in our country that has developed since the beginning of the year in particular, where, it's become a very deep sense of pride and unity. And really, yes, it's the Oilers versus the Panthers, but it's really kind of, I guess, when you look at it, Canada versus the U.S. in some respects. It's how some people would be looking at it. And but anyway, any way you look at it's going to be a really exciting series. It's going to be hard fought, as you said, and I agree. It's going to go down to 7. We've got a couple of comments coming in right now, so let me just clear the deck. And I don't know if you caught Greg's or not, but he said, "Bang on, Eddie, but not too fast. We tend to always get to the finals. We got to win it this year."
Yes, we
and
do.
Then out to BC, I believe. Joe says both teams are evenly matched. I hope it doesn't come down to bogus penalties or Bettman. Yeah.
He's not too far from the truth there. And Joe, by the way, I know you feel bad too because the Vancouver Canucks didn't even make it into the playoffs. At least Gary and I are one step ahead of you.
Ouch. 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 Anyway.